Hello again, my beautiful friends. My name is Beck. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm excited to share with you something that I've been nutting out over the last 6 months or so with my clients. And that is a classification system for our reactions to our emotions. Now this is actually massive. Being able to have a classification system, a way to look at how our emotions influence our behaviors, how we react to our emotions. It's going to give you so much insight in your life and therefore more ability to be skillful with your reactions and what you're creating in your life. Because at any moment, you're either creating the emotions in your body that are driving you purposely, or you're being puppeted, controlled, moved around the world by the unintentional emotions that just pop up into your body. So I've made this classification in response to my clients' needs. My clients in my self-doubt coaching practice are very goal-orientated, action-orientated, and they also tend to have some awareness of their thoughts. But what's usually lacking, the missing piece, is the piece in the middle, the feelings, the emotion. Because what you'll come to know, and what I'm going to tell you over and over again until you get it, is that your thoughts create your emotions, which then drive your behaviors, your actions, which create your results. Thoughts, emotions, behaviors. So my clients definitely know the behaviors and the outcomes they want and the behaviors and outcomes they're creating. They tend to be heavy on the thinking. They tend to call themselves overthinkers. And so a lot of the work that we do together is filling in this emotion piece in the middle. That is the piece that we spend time raising their awareness of so they can create the results they want, all the way from thoughts to the achievement of their goals or the behaviors that represent their best selves. Really, my clients are much like how I was before I had coaching in my life too. I, as an ambitious person with big goals in my mind, really took on board this idea that it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be tough, it's gonna be awful, you're gonna need willpower, you're gonna need grit. And I translated that to this idea that emotions were something that needed to be resisted, bulldozed over, or ignored. Emotions were really just something that occasionally came up and occasionally got in the way of me taking the actions that I wanted to take. Just something that was a nuisance every so often, and it made it a bit harder, a bit more laborious, a bit more unpleasant, a bit more uncomfortable to do these hard things. What I didn't realize was the only reason those emotions, those unpleasant, uncomfortable, difficult emotions were there was because of the way that I was thinking about the situation that I was in, about the hard thing that I was doing. That my thoughts were what was making the emotion. My thoughts about a hard thing could make a hard thing a lot worse or better. And the other part I didn't know, the thing that got me really interested in emotions for the first time in my life, was recognizing that I was being controlled, puppeted, influenced by my emotions. My emotions were driving my behavior. Emotion in its origins in Latin is e, out, and movere, movement, outwards movement. Emotions create outwards movement. Emotions move you into action. So whether you know it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you like it or not, your emotions are influencing your behavior. This was formalized back in the 1950s by psychiatrist Dr. Aaron Beck, who developed the cognitive behavioral therapy model, which reads that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are influenced by each other. So your emotions matter. I know, I would love to just ignore them and squash them too. But the truth is, at any time, you are either being controlled by your emotions or you are the person creating and controlling your emotions. And the tangible piece of this is you can look at the behaviors that you're doing in any situation and be like, do I like this behavior? Is this something that I'm choosing? Is this something that I wanted to create? I'm purposely creating this behavior? Or is this a behavior that I wish I could stop? A habit that just keeps coming back? Something that I'm not proud of? Something that's not moving me towards my goals, it's moving me away from my goals, or it's wasting my energy. So here's a really important piece that I feel like has been lacking in us, in our ability in general to recognize and accept that our emotions are actually directly influencing our behavior. And that is the understanding that having an emotion, say anger, reacting to anger, doesn't always mean shouting and screaming. It can look like something totally different and quite the opposite of shouting and screaming. And it's okay, normal, fine, if you don't know this about your emotions, because nobody ever taught us. But you can start today, right here in this video. So take anger as the example. Some of us, like me, I would have never thought or said that anger was a part of my life because I wasn't one to shout or exclaim, or as you typically think about what acting out anger was like. If you asked an actor to act angry, that wasn't something that was a part of my sort of mannerisms and persona. It wasn't a reaction that I quickly went to. This will be typified as somebody saying, I never shout, so I can't experience anger. But the key is acting out, sharing, showing this stereotype of anger isn't the only way that we can react to anger. For a lot of us, me certainly, my reaction to anger would have been escaping it. And I could do this in all kinds of creative ways. For example, start internally. I can resist and deny the fact that I'm angry. Self-talk that sounds like, I shouldn't be angry. I'm not gonna be angry. I wish this thing was different so that I didn't have to feel angry. Arguing with reality. Wanting to control and change the world so that I didn't have to feel this feeling. I could try and escape the feeling of anger by solving or appeasing whatever situation was making me feel angry. Like if my thought was that somebody had done something that had made me feel angry, I could just say, no, that's okay. Just tell myself that it doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter, so that I don't have to feel that anger anymore. Other things I can do to escape the anger is distract myself. We commonly see this with people who overwork, or in a conversation, you could just change the topic. If you're at home and some situation makes you angry, maybe you'll go and procrastinate. It's shifting your attention away from the thing that makes you angry so that you can escape that anger. And finally, one that we all probably know stinks into our life, which is seeking false comfort. So you still have that feeling of anger, and without doing anything to deal with it, you just put false pleasure and comfort on top of it. So this looks like overeating, over drinking, over Netflixing, over social media-ing. That's just one broad stroke example. And when you start to see how you react to these usually negative feelings in your life, you'll start to care a lot more about emotions, because you'll see that often this embodying or escaping of a negative emotion doesn't create outcomes that you like in your life, or behaviors that you're proud of in your life that are serving your goal or your mission. You'll get more clarity about how your reactions or your processing of emotion makes you better or worse, in your opinion, or moves you closer or further away from the person that you want to be, that highest version of yourself, being in your utmost integrity. And I think we'll all agree that that is really important. And therefore, your emotions, my friends, are very important. All right, let me give you this categorization system so that you can start to look at your reactions to your emotions in your life as well, and start to piece together a bit more easily how those emotions are creating behaviors in your lives, and maybe even the thoughts that are creating those emotions. Thoughts, emotions, behaviors, sequence. I'm gonna link a PDF down below that gives you these different categories so you can refer back to them and start to have more awareness and deliberateness in your own life. So firstly, you have an emotion. You can either feel the emotion or you can react to the emotion. Feeling the emotion is actually what we want to do. That's what gives us the control over the emotion. It's what helps us extract all the information about the thought that's creating the emotion, and it gives us the space to disempower the emotion so that the emotion doesn't control us. We get agency over the emotion and we decide how we will act from the emotion instead of just automatically reacting to it. Feeling your feelings sounds really simple, but it's actually something that not many of us can do very well, and it deserves its own video. Today I want to talk about the other side of things when we're reacting to an emotion. So the two categories of how we react to an emotion are 1, embodying, or 2, escaping. You can embody the emotion or you can escape the emotion. So first, embodying the emotion. This is like I was saying before, if you asked an actor to act out this emotion, what would they do? This is the stuff that we typically think and know about an emotion. For example, anger. You can have an external reaction and or an internal reaction. The external reaction is showing that emotion, sharing it with the world, acting out the emotion. This commonly looks like the fight or freeze response. The fight response, say with anger or frustration, or the freeze response, say with overwhelm or shame. Showing or sharing might also look like phoning a friend and complaining to somebody, or complaining to your colleagues, the closest person on the street. Showing and sharing whatever you're feeling. And the other way that we embody an emotion is internally. This is a self-talk that we have with ourselves, the dialogue going on in our head as a reaction to this feeling. And most commonly, that's going to look like a spiral, ruminating. This confirmation bias comes into the picture, where we look out into the environment for more evidence to feel that feeling, or we look back in our past and cherry pick out other situations where we felt this way to justify the fact that we're feeling this way. So that's the big category of embodying. You can embody an emotion internally and or externally. Now I want to talk about the other way we can react to an emotion, and this is escaping the emotion. So I did roughly go through the types of ways that we can escape an emotion with my last example of anger. So there's a few different mini categories here that I like to talk about. So we've got shushing, solving, smothering, and shifting. And you can read a bit more about what these couple of things mean in the A4 PDF, but briefly. Shushing. This is resisting, denying, arguing with reality, revolting against reality, like going on strike against this feeling. Although this shouldn't be happening, I wish this wasn't happening, I'm denying, resisting this emotion, squashing it, shushing it down. And I think a great analogy for this one is the beach ball one, where you've got this blow up beach ball and you're trying to push it under the water. That's kind of the effort that it takes to shush or resist an emotion. Solving kind of sounds good, but I want to be really specific about this. This is solving for the emotion itself, not solving the problem or the situation, not solving for the thought or the problem that's causing the emotion, but just escaping the emotion by removing the stimulus. So this is escaping. This might look like placating or abandoning your stance in an uncomfortable conversation. Smothering, this is what I was talking about, where you have this uncomfortable emotion and then you will overeat, overdrink, over Netflix, over social media. You take an unpleasant thing and you try and put some pleasure on top of it to sort of soften it. And finally, shifting. Basically just distracting yourself, and this most commonly looks like the overworking and where all the procrastinating stuff comes in. You could shift your attention all kinds of ways, going to exercise, stirring up a conversation with your partner. Shifting is just redirecting your attention, basically escaping the feeling by thinking about something else. So I think the visual on this one really helps, so be sure to download the PDF and have a look at those different categories. You don't need to memorize them, but next time you have this kind of negative experience or you behave in a way that you're not super chuffed with, just refer back to this PDF and have a look at what might have happened. Have a look at how you might have been influenced by escaping or embodying an emotion instead of simply feeling it, and therefore letting the emotion move through your body, disempowering it and getting some agency over it and some space to choose something different. That feeling category is really a big skill set, and it takes a lot of trialing and erroring practice to really be able to execute well. So the point I really want to drive home with showing you these different reactions as opposed to feeling the emotion, that these reactions aren't harmless. They're not just empty space. These reactions are creating things in your life as well, and often things that you don't like or want in your life. So I want you to start with first being able to have a look at the amount of time, energy, and attention that goes into reacting to these negative emotions instead of feeling them. These reactions are taking up a lot of resources in your life. So in practical terms, that looks like avoiding discomfort, fighting urges, resisting, regretting, snapping, resenting, such energy taxing and distracting emotions. Moreover, the second step here is to consider what else you could be doing with your time, energy, and attention if you weren't stuck in needing to react to these emotions. If you didn't have to waste that time, energy, and attention there, but also you could spend that time, energy, and attention on useful behaviors from useful emotions. This is your opportunity cost of reacting to emotions instead of learning to feel them. And those useful emotions look like being able to move yourself back into focus, determination, love in real time before all that negative stuff kicks in, before you react to whatever negative emotion or discomfort you're feeling. So that is a skill that we develop in coaching. It's the missing link to ease, deliberateness, momentum, and results in your life. It's your emotions, this underutilized fuel. So check out the PDF down below. Don't forget to refer back to it. Actually apply it to your life. Put a spot in your calendar at the end of the day to pull it out and have a look at just one negative emotional experience, something uncomfortable that was unpleasant in the day, and have a look, label out which category you reacted from and start to build that awareness in your own life. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next one.